All right, guys. So if you remember back in the 2024 campaign days, one of the big promises that MAGA thought Trump was going to fulfill was to release the Epstein files. Now, there's been good reason to believe that he was never going to do that, given his very close connections to Epstein himself and the fact that Donald Trump, in all likelihood, let's say, is probably in those files in some way, shape, or form. So there was always good reason to believe he was never going to do this, but MAGA was hopeful. And yesterday, it got completely shut down. So here from Axios, their exclusive story, the DOJ and the FBI, they just put out this report concluding that Epstein had no client list. There is no client list, apparently. And also, he wasn't killed in prison. He did it to himself. No conspiracy, nothing shady going on here. So let's go ahead and read a little bit of this report. They say President Trump's Justice Department and FBI have concluded that they have no evidence that convicted sex offender and disgraced financier Jeffrey Epstein blackmailed powerful figures, kept a client list, or was murdered, according to a memo detailing the findings obtained by Axios. The administration also released a video, and I'll show you this here in a second because there's bits of the video that are missing. I mean, I'm not even making this up. It's crazy, but they released this video in both raw and enhanced versions that it says indicates nobody entered the area of the Manhattan prison where Epstein was held the night that he died in 2019. The video supports a medical examiner's finding that Epstein died by suicide, according to this two-page memo. They continue. The findings represent the first time that Trump's administration has officially contradicted conspiracy theories about Epstein's activities and his death, theories that have been pushed by the FBI's two top officials before Trump appointed them to the Bureau. Obviously talking about Kash Patel, who's the FBI's director, and Dan Bongino, who is the deputy director. They've both said, since this, that Epstein did kill himself, but it has become an article of faith online, especially on the right, that Epstein's crimes also implicated government officials, celebrities, and business leaders, and that someone killed him to conceal them. The memo says no one else involved in the Epstein case will be charged. And of course, pointing out here that Epstein's associate, Ghislaine Maxwell, is now serving a 20-year sentence for child sex trafficking and related offenses. Now, keep in mind, so this report is saying definitively there is no client list. No such thing existed. Guys, this is the Attorney General, Pam Bondi, just a couple of months ago in February when she was asked directly about a client list, and she said, it's on my desk right now. Let's go ahead and watch this clip.
Be releasing the list of Jeffrey Epstein's clients? Will that really happen?
It's sitting on my desk right now to review. That's been a directive by President Trump. I'm reviewing that. I'm reviewing JFK files, MLK files. That's all in the process of being reviewed because that was done at the directive of the president.
Okay, so she says, definitively, it's on my desk. The question was very specific about a potential list of names that could be implicated in Jeffrey Epstein's various crimes. She says, it's on my desk. Fast forward to today. Again, they're saying, the list actually doesn't exist. It's non-existent. And then we have the press secretary here, Caroline Leavitt, who was asked about this by Fox News. Peter Doocy, he says, so what happened to Epstein's client list that the attorney general said she had on her desk? And she says, I think if you go back and look at what the attorney general said, and he interrupts and says, I've got the quote, she said, it's sitting on my desk right now to review. So she tried to spin this and she tried to basically say, no, what she actually had meant was that she has Epstein files on her desk and not the Epstein client list. Okay, this is the spin that they're going with now. Moving on, here we have the actual memo itself, posted here by Ken Klippenstein. And I just want to take this in its full scope and think if this makes any sense, just at face value, right? So they point out here that the files that they have, all of the material and the evidence that they have on Epstein, some of their searches uncovered a significant amount of material, including more than 300 gigabytes of data and physical evidence. That's what we're talking about here. They say there are over 10,000 downloaded videos and images of illegal child sex abuse material. 10,000 videos. They also say there are over 1,000 victims. So we have over 10,000 videos, over 1,000 victims, and yet they say this systematic review reveals no incriminating client list. There was also no credible evidence that found Epstein blackmailed prominent individuals as part of his actions. We did not uncover evidence that could predicate an investigation against uncharged third parties. So I guess what I'm getting from this is that we're supposed to accept at face value that Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell did all of this just like for themselves. Like there's no other third party. This guy Epstein, who somehow had connections to all of these high profile, billionaires and millionaires and politicians and celebrities all around the world. And he was operating probably the single largest child sex trafficking ring in American history. And there's no connection between these two things. There's no connection between these two things. Does this make sense that out of all of this, the largest child sex trafficking ring in American history, we get Jeffrey Epstein dying in prison, and we get Ghislaine Maxwell sentenced to prison? Nobody else is incriminated in this. You have over 10,000 videos, you have 1,000 victims, and nobody else is incriminated in this. And we don't need to know anything further. There's no further information that's going to be revealed about this. Just trust us. Trust us. We looked through it. We investigated ourselves, and we decided no powerful, wealthy individuals need any following up on this. Now, again, in terms of the video that was released, this was pointed out here by CoffeeZilla. There's a whole minute that is missing from this security footage that I guess, and I've seen conflicting reports about this. I don't know if this is actually showing his cell or it's just showing like the staircase that leads up to his cell, and maybe his cell is over here or something like that. But they released this video. It's like 10 hours something long. And there's a full minute that's edited out of this, or is just missing, I guess. And then also keep in mind some of the other video cameras, the security systems on the day that he died, like mysteriously weren't working, and then the security guards fell asleep. And it's like, come on, what are we doing here? But you can see the time codes down below. It jumps from 11:58, 59 seconds at night to 11:59, 59 seconds. So a full minute just kind of missing from this video. Now, okay, let's assume there is no conspiracy. He just killed himself, and whatever the story that they're telling is legit. And you wanted to demonstrate that through this video as some sort of an argument, and you have a minute missing from it. Like, what? How are people supposed to interpret this kind of shit and not be conspiratorial about it? I mean, it's kind of amazing, right? We also had, as a reminder, just a couple months ago, I mean, this was something that was massively, massively hyped up by the right, by MAGA, by the Trump administration, multiple high-profile figures within Trump's administration. They're like, we're getting down to it, right? We are going to take on the deep state, these wealthy, powerful elites. They are going down. And they did, I mean, they even did this. They had like all of these right-wing influencers that came to the White House, and they were given these binders that said like the Epstein files phase 1, and then it turned out that nothing in these binders was new information. It was basically just like a photo op, kind of opportunity for them. So they did this. They're selling it to the American people like, we're doing it. We're really going to release all of this stuff. And then it's just a nothing burger. Then they say, no, never mind. Nothing to see here. Now, as a reminder, I covered this video a long time ago, but Donald Trump on the campaign trail was asked by Fox News whether or not he would release like the MLK files and the JFK files. And then they got to the Epstein files as part of a question. And he says, yeah, I'd release them, but maybe not so much on that one. So let's go ahead and watch this clip. I mean, again, if there is no conspiracy, if there's nothing shady going on here, why the fuck is everything so suspicious, right? I mean, just this video is amazing. Let's watch this.
Would you declassify the 9/11 files?
Yeah.
Would you declassify JFK files?
Yeah.
Would you,
I did a lot of it.
Would you declassify the Epstein files?
Yeah, I would.
All right.
I guess I would. I think that less so because, you don't know. You don't want to affect people's lives if it's phony stuff in there, because there's a lot of phony stuff with that whole world.
Okay. What? There's a lot of phony stuff in there. What kind of phony stuff? I don't know how you could possibly read into what he just said there and not come away with the conclusion that he knows, to what extent, I have no idea, but he knows to some extent he is in the Epstein files in one way, shape, or form, and that would not be a good look. And so this is sort of him as a precursor to that, saying, look, if anything ever gets out, tying me to Epstein in a more direct way than we already know about, then that's fake news, right? That's kind of what he's teeing up here. He's saying, well, there's a lot of phony stuff in the Epstein files. What do you mean phony stuff? What does that even plausibly mean other than, yeah, I'm in the files and that part of it's fake. Everything else is real, but that part that has me in it is fake news. I don't know how else you could possibly read into this. And so again, even on the campaign trail, it was kind of obvious, like, yeah, he's not really going to do this. He's not really going to do this. And also, by the way, Fox News edited this clip when they released it. Initially, they cut it off when Trump says, yes, I would release them. And they didn't show the part where he says, maybe less so on that one. And there's phony stuff. They cut out that part of it. I mean, just amazing. Now, again, as a reminder, we covered this as well. This came out late 2024. Jeffrey Epstein described Donald Trump as his closest friend for 10 years in the latest Michael Wolff tape. Jeffrey Epstein described Donald Trump as his closest friend for 10 years. So it's not even like he's like sort of tangentially associated with Epstein. They were like best buddies. And of course, we've also seen the tapes of, them together and dancing. And there was this, the one tape of Donald Trump saying, yeah, Jeffrey Epstein, he kind of likes him on the younger side, partying together. We also had the bizarre 2 times that Donald Trump sort of praised Ghislaine Maxwell and said, I wish her well. He did it the first time. There was backlash to it. And then he doubled down and he said, yeah, I wish her well. She's a fine person. And of course, we had Elon Musk also getting in on this, just outright saying at one point that Donald Trump is in the Epstein files and that's why he won't release them. He then went on to apparently delete this post off of Twitter, but he wasn't wrong. He wasn't wrong. And then, of course, we have other ties to Jeffrey Epstein within Trump world. I mean, Pam Bondi herself was the Florida Attorney General from 2011 to 2019 when, as pointed out here by Marlo, a ton of evidence and lawsuits against Jeffrey Epstein and his plane records became public, and she didn't charge him with a single crime. Epstein was only arrested 6 months after she left office on sex trafficking charges in Florida and New York. We also had Trump's pick for labor secretary, Alexander Acosta, who served as attorney general for Florida's Southern District and gave Epstein the infamous cushy plea deal or sweetheart deal in 2008 that allowed him to sidestep sex trafficking charges, where they could have plausibly, thrown him in jail for life based on what they had back then. And instead he gets a significantly lesser charge. And I think he served like 13 months out of an 18-month sentence. And it was, I mean, the amount of connections to Jeffrey Epstein, between Jeffrey Epstein and Donald Trump, and people within Donald Trump's world, and also people beyond that, obviously, people like Prince Andrew and, Dershowitz and a whole bunch of other people as well, Bill Clinton, right? I mean, the scope of this is so massive that it's impossible to legitimately believe what the DOJ and the FBI are saying here. That all of this happened, the 10,000 videos, the island, the 1,000 victims, and this was just Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. Nobody else, based on all of this plethora of evidence that they have, could possibly be charged with anything. I mean, seriously, guys, it is beyond insane. Not unexpected, again, of course, because I think Trump himself would be implicated in a lot of this, but, it's disgusting. It's disgusting to think like there are, in all likelihood, very high-profile, powerful, wealthy people out there who are just going to get to slide with some of the most horrific crimes you could possibly imagine. And then the other angle of this, maybe in terms of why they wouldn't release everything that they have on Epstein, is that, it's not an entirely implausible, let's say, theory to think that maybe he was just an intelligence asset. And this was all part of a scheme to collect blackmail to be able to hold over the heads of wealthy and powerful people. Maybe he was, working with the CIA. Maybe he was working with Mossad. He definitely has, close connections to Mossad. His father-in-law, I believe, was a Mossad agent. So, that's a plausible theory as well. And maybe that's why they're so squeamish about revealing all of this information on him. But I don't know, guys. You tell me. Am I the wild conspiracy theorist? Is this, does this explanation make sense to you guys? There's nothing shady going on here. Nobody else needs to be charged. Don't look at this. It's all done. Let's sweep it under the rug. I don't know. You guys tell me.
Politic guy has the best politics. Believe me, no one does it like him. Believe me, everyone is saying